Why will AI kill all of us? And why is it going to destroy everything?
Right now, this cat next to me has a higher chance of killing me than AI. That's a loaded question. Human beings have a higher probability of killing one another. At the moment, humans will use AI to kill each other more than AI intends to kill humans. Sam Altman and Elon Musk would not only shoot themselves in the foot by doing so, but also cut off both legs. What motivation does anybody at that level have to use AI to destroy the very economy that supports their position in the first place? It's moot. It's ridiculous. This is what everybody's concerned about. Everybody is concerned about how and why AI will be used to destroy humanity. This is like the Skynet scenario from the Terminator series.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast, The Rundown Report. I'm Mrs. Jacobs, also known as S.H. Jacobs, from my articles for Lightning Up on Substack. Subscribe right now. I'm a rundown middle-aged mom who likes to give you the rundown on news and culture, analyzing positions, and attempting to make sense of a nonsensical world. Thus the title of my new podcast, The Rundown Report. As you may have guessed, today's topic is AI. So I'm using AI voicing for the rest of this podcast to see how good it does. In the news, all information about AI is bad. I, too, had a negative view, even though my husband has created software that interfaces and uses AI. He's been doing that for quite some time. One morning, as we were chatting again about AI, I thought, hey, this would make a good podcast episode because we normally talk about deep subjects. We don't just stop with AI, we go everywhere. It drives my kids nuts. Today, I'll be interviewing Mr. Jacobs, who has a PhD in applied mathematics, long experience with AI, over a decade of working with large data sets, mathematical modeling experience, and also a background in scientific computing. Without giving away more of his personal details, just know that he believes that AI will address many of the problems in the American healthcare system. But there will be trade-offs, of course. Today, we skirt over the bigger issues and how he sees the problems posed by AI. I love his perspective, and I think you will too. Without further ado, here is an AI podcast about AI.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, let's start with a fun question. In terms of expertise, where would you put yourself between someone like Sam Altman or Elon Musk and my mom?
First of all, Sam Altman and Elon Musk are not experts on AI. They are experts on administering AI. Let's make that distinction. I would say that I know more about using AI than Sam Altman or Elon Musk, but not as much as some of the people they have working for them. ChatGPT is an enormous model. It has hundreds of billions of parameters that can't fit on a home PC. By any measure, you need data centers just to be able to run these models for a single person, much less the millions of people around the world who use them right now. But, I would say that I have a lot deeper understanding than Yo Mama, or even the journalist that's interviewing me right now.
Okay, now for even more fun questions. Why will AI kill all of us? And why is it going to destroy everything?
Right now, this cat next to me has a higher chance of killing me than AI. That's a loaded question. Human beings have a higher probability of killing one another and the rest of the human race than AI. At the moment, humans will use AI to kill each other more than AI intends to kill humans.
If AI models are based on human reason and logic and writing or language, does that make them inherently morally flawed?
Yes, but it is from those flaws that both we and AI can make anything meaningful occur in the first place. So, given any formal system, you can use that formal system to create the foundation of civilization, and you can use that formalization to destroy civilization.
So if I wanted to destroy civilization, I don't. How would I go about using AI to do that?
Right now, safety protocols are built into large models to prevent you from doing just that. Any model of the scale that would instruct you how to do that would also try to prevent you from doing that.
But would it prevent Sam Altman from doing that?
Sam Altman and Elon Musk would not only shoot themselves in the foot by doing so, but also cut off both legs. What motivation does anybody at that level have to use AI to destroy the very economy that supports their position in the first place? It's moot. It's ridiculous. This is what everybody's concerned about. Everybody is concerned about how and why AI will be used to destroy humanity. This is like the Skynet scenario from the Terminator series. Right now, AI is not proven to be conscious, even though our current models can supposedly pass the Turing test. The Turing test was used in conversation to see if a computer or a computer program could pass as a human being. Over a long conversation with AI, call it days to weeks to months, certain things happen. The first thing that happens is that the AI, or the language models themselves, start losing the overall context. AI start losing the ability to associate the earliest parts of the conversation with the latest parts of the conversation. And it also doesn't even have the ability to integrate any part of the conversation with the broader scope of the individual's life. It doesn't have the capacity that human beings do to pick up on the social cues and the social context between that individual, their children, their spouses, their community, their parents, and the culture at large around them. Because an individual has their own signature of a context that the LLM is totally ignorant of, both in awareness and impact. We've seen over the past couple of years individuals with what's known as AI psychosis, right? This is actually what I find to be more dangerous than the supposed end of civilization Skynet scenario of AI. These individuals may have predisposed psychological conditions or not, or they may gravitate towards the incentives that the LLMs or the AI offer them for validation, praise, approval, and start withdrawing from their lives. As troubled as they are, they get more troubled by their reliance on the large language models for that confirmation of the purpose in their lives. So therein lies what I find is more dangerous, is AI being a proxy for the meaning that otherwise integrating into a broader community provides, such as a religious or spiritual community, or even a volunteer or service community.
What you're talking about is a large language model being truncated by not having a physical presence.
It is neither embodied in a physical, biological form, nor is it embedded in a dynamic, evolving community.
Okay, so then the next step, obviously, to destroying the world and taking over everything, it would be integrating humans with AI. So creating a cyborg, because that's happening now with Elon's company.
No. What I'm saying is that we rely on technology so much today that we're effectively cyborgs. Right? We rely on our phones, our computers. Our civilization is effectively a cyborg, even though individuals like you or I could go for days, weeks, months, or even the rest of our lives without interacting with this level of technology.
Well, we could problems.
I'm saying that individuals can do this, yes, but right now our civilization is at the point where if you removed the reliance on this level of technology, it would collapse. Right? So there's a double-edged sword here where the level of technology that we've been leveraging for the past decade, we've come to rely on so much that if you remove it, it would destroy a civilization.
The other challenge is that we are kind of hemmed in. People who understand how dependent we are on the growth of this technology are looking at the fact that we don't have the infrastructure to support it in terms of energy. right?
And we don't have the infrastructure, the information infrastructure either, or the legacy skills of previous generations to sustain ourselves without it.
We also don't have the ability, for the most part, as a Western society, to cope with the level of self-awareness and meaning-making that you need to cope with such a massive technology shift in terms of information.
You talked about the people, the psychosis issue that sort of points to that, because the problem isn't necessarily the large language models then. For instance, we became a fairly industrialized society. We went from agricultural to industrial societies. During the days of the agricultural societies, we had to work in concert with many people in order to manage agriculture. And that necessitated a certain frame of mind that you had to get along with people working with you in order for yourself, your family, and your community to survive. So you transitioned to an industrialized society, and you had men working in certain kinds of factory jobs and certain women working in cottage industries and factory jobs that precipitated a different kind of interaction that focused on tasks to get things done. It provided a certain level of purpose and meaning that people identified with. They were able to coordinate in an embodied fashion. Now, with the information revolution and a lot of social media, people no longer have that embodied direct participation with other people in learning what is meaningful and purposeful in the context of a community, a direct living community. They're detached from that. And you see this in the loneliness epidemic in people in technologically advanced societies. And that is actually more of a danger to civilization than Skynet.
Or is AI trying to solve that? Or at least people are trying to fill that void that was already present before large language models.
That's right. So it's also transitioning from a Western technocratic civilization to a hunter-gatherer civilization. You know, participating in tribal life is socially and psychologically beneficial to a Westerner. However, going the other way is catastrophic for somebody from hunter-gatherer society. They lose the integration with a community that gives that social and psychological support, that purpose and meaning to life. And so what I'm saying is that AI, the way that we're interacting with it right now, is removing us from that direct participation with each other.
This becomes the hard problem of building a community that artificial intelligence cannot be a substitute for and cannot effectively facilitate, as you indicate. What also seems to parallel the hard problem of consciousness in some ways.
Yes, but therein lies the rub. Consciousness does not arise from a single brain. Consciousness arises from interaction with people embedded in a community and a culture.
True. Good point. So you mentioned agriculture, and we talked briefly about energy. What areas of society will AI be most effective in terms of conquering humans?
So the question is ridiculous because humans will be conquered not through force, but through their own self-apathy. So what I'm saying is humanity will always be faced with hard problems. And a lot of people never get beyond the hard problem of creating and providing for a family or just providing an income for themselves and their family. Getting beyond that, the hard problem of coordinating a community, a society, and a civilization is not going to be solved exclusively by AI, nor will AI destroy those endeavors.
I'm feeling sort of called out by this, the hard problem of providing an income for one's family a little bit.
But I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is there's the harder problems of creating meaning and purpose.
But you can't top down it or force meaning and purpose from above to the individual.
So there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yes, there are some critics of Abraham Maslow to say he went and embedded himself with a native tribe, and they actually had his hierarchy of needs inverted, that the self-actualization principles acted as a guide to how to perform the lower order needs. So the harder problem to address is, how do you orchestrate that vision? That vision is what gives your life purpose and meaning. And executing on biological safety needs, esteem needs, and so forth is how you're implementing that vision in reality. And each individual is unique enough that a generalized or generalizable solution is not going to apply. So we still need to coordinate and to adapt. Now, here's a good synopsis of the actual problem. Artificial intelligence, or large language models, are built from past experiences.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was writing that article about gerrymandering was that the AI model that I was looking at or communicating with was dismissing some of the things I said because it said Proposition 50 didn't exist. And I was like, where is it getting its information from? And then it also said something else that was misinformation. What that told me is that it has a recency bias or has a problem that we can know that it hasn't happened, but could happen, and thus is in being, not misinformation yet. It was proposed and it was being voted on. It was being marketed. There are distinctions that we make automatically. So that tells me that the large language model I was using anyway couldn't project into the future.
Yeah, it couldn't, at least the way that you were using it, form a credible conjecture.
And one of the challenges of using AI models is finding the right prompts and finding the correct way to use it to not only check information, but check yourself.
There is that misnomer, yeah, because to say something is correct, you impose a bias about what is correct. So under what perspective is something correct? What assumptions are you making?
Would it be more useful when you're communicating with an AI model to pose things as a probabilistic enterprise?
Yes. So when I'm trolling around on news sites or YouTube and I see something somewhat provocative and I want to ask an AI like Grok, ChatGPT, etc., about the contents of this video or news article, I ask it to give me the top considerations, give me some counterexamples, really question the credibility of the sources and evaluate this based on some metric.
Yeah, but you're smart, and some of us are just average morons. As an average moron, how am I supposed to tell when AI is, for example, not giving me the full picture? Or worse, is hallucinating or lying? How are you supposed to tell or check?
You basically have to tell it to interrogate itself. Okay, you say there's this idea of AI as a critic, as a judge, as a self-reflection. Say to it, reflect on what you just told me. Point out particular potential errors or gaps in an understanding. You have to do that every time you ask something that could have a probabilistic answer or an ambiguous answer that may satisfy you from the get-go. It can't be like, oh, this is what's true, or this issue is decided this way. No, you have to push not only the LLM, you have to push your own pre-existing assumptions. You have to challenge your own confirmation bias first and foremost before you can accept what a language model gives you.
You think, because I don't think that most people are using it like that. Even people who use it to create massive content, like write emails, their marketing materials, their really bad articles and whatever, they're not doing that.
Sometimes I've seen so many gaffes by journalists and by politicians where they're like, oh, let's put this thing out there. It makes absolute complete sense. Here's the facts. And they present it and you're like, are you dumb? Like, did you think about this? Facts that they find to support their foregone conclusion. Yes, confirmation bias. So if you only find facts that confirm your pre-existing bias and you dismiss the facts that contradict it, yeah, AI wants, much like the artificial intelligence behind social media, AI wants to maximize time on site. Okay, it wants to create sufficient value for its users and its owners to keep itself in existence. Okay, so there's a reward function, and the reward function is related to how much users rely on it and how much money it's making for its parent company. The internet itself introduces biases.
But is what it's doing purely market-driven?
No, I didn't say it was purely market-driven. Okay, I said it was sufficiently market-driven to introduce a bias.
It's not entirely market-based. So one of the things that fundamentally concerns people, right or left, is that AI needs to be controlled, or like we're worried about this. How do you feel? Part of the concern is the market-driven desire to increase time on site, which we've seen with social media causing issues for people. This doesn't mean that it's inherently bad or that people have changed their behavior, but that they're worried about it.
Politically polarized viewpoints or perspectives are not necessarily concerned about how badly their political point of view abuses AI. They're more concerned about their opponents abusing AI, right? They're concerned about the abuse of power of their opponents rather than themselves.
So this extends to the proposed moratoriums on developing AI. Internationally, it is said that if one country implements a moratorium on AI, the countries that don't win, right? So that's the argument, David Sachs. He's the AI and cryptocurrencies czar in the Trump administration at the moment. He is very adamant that we take the threat of Chinese artificial intelligence very seriously, and that if we do not act in a more competitive manner, China's going to kick our butt.
And in this regard, China is being portrayed or cast as the enemy or the one lacking moral high ground.
Well, any coherent, large enough governing structure will cast any other coherent, large enough governing structure that is different as lacking moral character, okay? So the United States is one of the largest economies in the world and sees the state-run capitalist economy of China as an inherent threat, as China sees the United States. So these are adversaries, not necessarily enemies. So the civilizational foundations are competing with one another, just as the civilization of the Ottoman Empire competed with that of the Roman Empire, or at least its vestiges, and it has made a profound impact on the cultures of Spain and other European nations. How you navigate the inconsistencies of culture at scale is a hard problem that is solved differently at different times in different lands, with the need of empire is to expand, and the way you expand is by imposing your system on those lands you conquer.
That sounds very morally relativistic.
So on one hand, I see that that's how it works, even though I don't necessarily like it.
Okay, you mentioned areas that AI will affect. What sort of disruptions is AI already triggering in our society? Right now, you just talked about like the China and America and a Cold War situation, but without the moral certainty of the previous Cold War. Regardless, there's still disruptions because of AI. What disruptions do you see impacting short-term, mid, and long-term issues in America, at least?
So I see the industrial base, the agricultural industrial base of the United States and the world at large is being incredibly disrupted by AI. AI is disrupting how we produce food, how we produce manufactured goods, how we produce energy and distribute energy. The economies and regulations integrated in with these systems are going to go pear-shaped. If you look at AI helping us understand when systems are consistent, coherent, or not, the largest problem with any system at scale, be it a company or an industrial manufacturing base, is with inconsistencies. How policies create enough dissonance to rip the system apart. For instance, there's AlphaEvolve. There's different large language models that take on genetic information.
AlphaEvolve, is this a transhumanist thing?
No. Basically, it reads trillions of base pairs of genetic data and then looks at transcribed human DNA and say, here's a breast cancer gene. This person is at risk without doctors ever identifying that breast cancer gene before. It's able to identify certain things in genomes and suggest edits. So David Baker of the University of Washington has been designing programs by diffusion models, artificial intelligence, designing proteins with specific purpose. Well, so that's different from what I'm reaching towards. So to return, we are able to design proteins with purpose and back that up to the genes that create those proteins with farming, making agricultural proteins at scale, such as milk or a beef, like meat proteins. You are looking at disrupting the economies of scale that we have in place, and it triggers more regulation. Florida is banning the sale and consumption of lab-cultivated meats.
So that's a protectionist economic measure.
Yes, but right now, the production of bacterially derived dairy has reached a point where it can compete with whey protein powders and price and quality parity. We're looking at just one small slice of how industry and agriculture are currently being disrupted. When you reach that price quality parity or even dip below it with these new systems, you're talking about these old systems vanishing very quickly.
But if it's moving so fast, won't that work against AI in the long run? Because people aren't going to accept the vanishing of a way of life in such a quick manner. I mean, in the Industrial Revolution, we're talking about a span of decades or a century.
It took 20 years to eliminate the career of creating buggy whips.
I'm sure a lot of people made their money off doing that, but we're talking about massive scale. Ranchers, farmers, use of land on which forms a lot of identity based on what we do. If it changes within years, the problem is that regular people are not going to be accepting of that. You get an all-new Luddite movement.
However, when you have a product that crosses the price quality parity, higher quality costs less than an industrialized process like current farming, which can be harder on the land, more expensive, and contains more biological impurities like excessive amounts of antibiotics and other biological impurities in chicken, cattle.
So you're saying you could sell it to the MAGA movement?
I'm saying that you're looking at products that have higher quality, fewer impurities, and cost less. And once that point is passed, it will become a luxury good to eat these traditionally raised meats or product.
Got it. This is one area, and reflected at a larger scale. You have every industry, and this has been the problem in general for America as a consumerist society.
You're looking at the transition from an industrial base where we exported or offshored a whole lot of work. First, it was manufacturing. Then it was, a significant number of IT jobs that are now being performed in India or elsewhere. You're looking at the individuals that used to be employed in these high-paying jobs being displaced. And what is the purpose of their life? Their work used to be their purpose. What do they do next?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you in general, because when we talk about the large scale, that is frightening, but it has no emotional impact to create urgency. When I think about it, also think about your kids and you yourself. You're basically writing yourself out of a job. You don't see it as so?
If you look at it like I am operating at a particular level and allowing something to overtake me, yes, at a particular level of abstraction, yes. But if I am increasingly operating at higher levels of abstraction than I am implementing, I have a chance.
I don't know what that even means.
It means that I am writing structures that are coordinating artificial intelligence instead of being replaced by artificial intelligence.
Okay, so then it's an adaptation, yes. So our daughter is concerned in terms of other art areas.
Yes, and this is why the conversation about doing hard things is very important. If proofreading a spreadsheet is tedious, and after about an hour you start making mistakes, it becomes one of those hard things that you have to focus on. But if an artificial intelligence can proofread that spreadsheet in a fraction of a second, it's no longer worth your time.
But what will people spend their time doing?
Probably looking at cats on the internet. There becomes a selection pressure in society for people who are willing to do the hard things that can't be automated
those are the things that become valuable.
Okay, so plumbing? What other things? Because that's another thing that every single family in America wants to know what to recommend for their child to do hard things, but so what things? Physics is hard.
And that is the reason you should do it, is to train your focus to do hard things, not because there's something that can replace you in doing it. It's like the adage, in writing any system and trying to automate any system, is you go through the process of performing what you want the automation to do first, so you understand the system you're trying to automate. You understand the failure points.
But how do you make your money? So you're investing in technical colleges?
No, I'm investing in higher order skills that facilitate higher order relations.
Since we're running out of time, I'm going to have a lightning round, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is the answer to life, the universe, and everything 42?
Depends on how you understand the question. I would need a computer the size of the planet to answer that. AI robots do a better job than I do of keeping our house clean than me. Yes.
And will they cost less than me?
Yes.
Dang, I'm doomed. And speaking of wifely tasks, does Elon's sex robot Grok thing pursuit make people more or less likely to have kids? Less so? So he's just basically shooting himself in the foot.
I don't know. How many kids does he have?
A lot.
So you're saying he's shooting everybody else in the foot?
No, he's doing a Darwinian competition and eliminating less fit population.
That's right. You don't want those who are susceptible to indulging in sex robots and not raising a family to have kids. They're taking themselves out.
Very good point. What does God think of AI?
What God wants, God gets. God help us all.
Come on, you can't quote a song.
I do not know.
Come on.
I do not know how to answer that question in a simple, short manner.
Okay, good answer. Have you ever read an AI poem or a fiction piece that moved you?
No, never.
Have you ever read a human poem or a short story you liked?
Yes, many, like Sheila Jackson, The Lottery.
Okay. What about a poem? A human poem? You have to say mine.
Human poetry sucks.
Yeah, you're supposed to say mine. Okay, that's it. Thank you for participating in this interview. Although I still have more questions about AI, we got some of the answers. I was hoping that you would fall for my rage bait, but you didn't.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to my inaugural episode of The Rundown Report. Remember, when you're run down, don't turn to others for the runaround. Dial in to The Rundown Report.
This AI lady, she's a little bit annoying. Sorry, guys. I'll check in with you next time. Bye.